Vanakkam Dohadeva. Vanakkam everyone. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vinvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I will share the screen. First topic. Here we go. Our first topic is drawing on some of the material from the article Yoga and Human Biology by Eddie Stern that is in the October 2021 issue of Hinduism Today. It's up on our website if you haven't gotten your printed copy. And adding some material from my own writings on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Subtitle: A rare exploration of the obstacles on the inner path as revealed in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. The 5 kleshas, which the article translates as obstacles, are wrong cognitions that are part of ordinary human nature. They are ignorance, I-amness or egoity, attraction, aversion, and clinging to life. The kleshas provide the cognitive and motivational framework to living a life enmeshed in the world and ignorant of one's spiritual nature. In other words, it's the presence of these in an individual that keeps us totally focused on the world and not focused on our inner life. Therefore, the strength of them needs to be lessened to be able to be successful in the practice of yoga. And we have Eddie's explanation of each coming up here. Very nice explanations. Avidya is an incomplete knowing of who we are. Vidya is knowledge, and the syllable a indicates in this case the opposite. If vidya is knowing, then avidya is not knowing, misperception or miscognition. It is not total ignorance, for indeed we know many other things, but we do not know our true nature. Avidya is the ground for all of the other kleshas. In fact, it could be said that there is really only one klesha, avidya, because contained within avidya are the other 4, which do not exist independently of avidya. In other words, if we got rid of avidya, the others would automatically go away. Asmita is the misidentification of identity and creation of narratives that occur when we do not truly know who we are. Asmi means I, and ta means nas, or the quality of. Asmita is the limited identity of a constructed self. When we have an incomplete picture of who we are, we fill in the blanks with peripheral identity stories and false narratives that we spend our lives enforcing, defending, and concretizing. This narrative constructs itself by holding on to likes and dislikes. And those are the other 2 kleshas, likes and dislikes. Raga and devesha are attachments to likes and dislikes. The things that we are attracted or drawn to, raga, as well as the things to which we are adverse, devesha. They are both attachments. We are attracted to the things that we find superior and no less attached to the things that we find inferior or distasteful. The attachments to the things we dislike are often more troubling than the things we like. For example, if we are fans of one sports team, that can set us against every other team in the league. Attachment to one team makes us averse to 20. Abhinivesha is clinging to life and the fear of extinction that occurs when all we know is our story, desires, and aversions. When we take them to be real, we fear that without them we will cease to exist. Hence the clinging to life, the clinging to our constructed narratives, the clinging to raga and devesha. On a biological level, life perpetuates itself. The impulse to procreate, for example, is nature's tight grip on its perpetuation. Since this is an impulse that is intrinsic to creation, it naturally flows in all beings, even as Patanjali says in The Wise. So next we have some actual verses from the Yoga Sutras on the kleshas, plus my commentary on these verses. So this isn't Eddie's writings, it's mine. Ignorance, I-amness, attraction, aversion, and clinging to life are the 5 kleshas. These 5 kleshas can all be attenuated by the practice of Kriya Yoga. Ultimately, the kleshas can be completely obliterated through the experience of Dharma Mega Samadhi. Attenuated means reduced in strength. We will look at the practice of Kriya Yoga later in the presentation. So this is important. Patanjali gives us the obstacles, and then he gives us a way of lessening them, which here is called attenuated. The word I tend to use is mitigated, lessened. And that ultimately, in the deepest samadhi, Dharma Mega Samadhi, we can get rid of them altogether. But initially, we're just trying to attenuate them, make them less strong, so we're not so focused on the external world all the time. So now we define each. Ignorance is the field of the other kleshas, whether dormant, attenuated, intercepted, or activated. So when it looks like this, that's the verse, the graphic. When it looks like this, it's my commentary. Commentators indicate the kleshas are dormant in a baby, attenuated by yogic practices, which we'll look at in a minute, intercepted when one temporarily blocks another, or fully activated in an average person who is not even trying to control them, just enjoying life in the world. Verse. Ignorance is the seeing of that which is eternal, pure, joyful, and the soul in that which is ephemeral, impure, sorrowful, and not the soul. So that is a really great definition of ignorance. The qualities that are in our soul, we think they're in the objects of the world. So we're constantly trying to get these soul qualities by possessions and people and experiences in the world, but they're actually inside the soul. And they're not in the world. So thinking that way is the ignorance. Gurudeva uses the phrase, the seed of desire is a false concept in relationship to corresponding objects. So that is another way of saying the same thing. It's a false concept. It is ignorance. So avidya is false concepts, seeing the soul qualities in the world when they aren't there. Okay, then we get my commentary. In common usage, ignorance refers to not knowing how to do something, such as being ignorant about caring for dairy cows. Ignorance of the type mentioned in this verse is different. It is referring to looking at something and totally mistaking its nature. And we get the next verse. I-amness is the identification, as it were, of the powers of vision and visioner. Commentary. Visioner, of course, is the Purusha, The powers of vision is referring to our intellect, the buddhi. So the soul thinks it's the ego, so to speak, the intellect, the constructed personality. Attraction, that one's easy. Attraction is that which rests on pleasant experiences. Commentary, of course, an individual is attracted to a multitude of objects an individual has not previously experienced. What this verse is saying is that one's strongest attractions are based on memories of having experienced pleasure. Verse. Aversion is that which rests on sorrowful experiences. Commentary. When the concept of being detached is initially thought about, it would be common to focus solely on lessening our attachment to what we consider pleasurable. However, strong attachments also exist to our memories of what caused us suffering, such as mistreatment from our parents. It is necessary to also detach from these memories of suffering. So that's a good point there. When we think of attachment, it's usually we just think of attachment to that which gives us pleasure. A cup of coffee in the morning, it's a good attachment. But we're also attached to that which has given us suffering in the past, particularly when we haven't resolved it all. Verse, clinging to life, flowing along by its own momentum, is rooted thus even in sages. This verse is pointing out that the dread of death is found in everyone, even the wisest of men. These kleshas in their subtle form are overcome by the process of involution within the individual. Comment, involution takes place when kaivalya, liberation, is achieved. The verse, the mental activities produced by these kleshas are overcome through meditation. So that's something we can do. The klesha is present in us, and it causes us to think about the world in a certain way. And if we're trying to meditate, that's a big distraction. So we can practice meditation and calm down those thoughts. Right, so that's what I just said. Verse, the kleshas are the root source of the stored karma, and this may be experienced in the present visible birth or in an unseen future birth. Commentary. The kleshas are also the causes of our actions that relate to worldly pursuits. All such actions create a karma. So the presence of the kleshas causes us to act in the world, and then, depending on the nature of that action, we've created a karma, the positive or negative one. Verse, so long as this root source exists, there also is fruition from it of one's class, lifespan, and life experiences. So that's what determines how a life works out. When we're born, the karma is influencing our class, jati, lifespan, and life experiences. 3 things. And I just said that. Okay, we have 2 of those. These are pleasant or unpleasant as the fruit of meritorious and non-meritorious actions, respectively. So that's that idea that The karma can be either meritorious or non-meritorious, and therefore unpleasant or pleasant. So this is just the traditional explanation of the law of karma. The karmic reaction created by meritorious actions, of course, are pleasant experiences in the future, and the karmic reaction caused by non-meritorious actions are unpleasant experiences in the future. Now we get to the more interesting part. Next, we'll focus on how we can attenuate the kleshas. How can we lessen their strength? So we need to have a little background here before we get to the specific details of how to attenuate the kleshas. We're going to look a little bit at Patanjali's classical yoga general principles. So as we all know, classical yoga consists of 8 limbs which describe progressively more advanced practices. In other words, the idea is to begin with the first limb, and after attaining some proficiency at it, move on to the second, and so forth. Then we all know what the 8 limbs are. I won't read them, but they're going to come out on the screen here in English. So, of course, ethical restraints is yamas, and religious observances is niyamas, which are the first 2. And we get the more advanced ones. So we know them, so I won't spend time on those. So of the 8 limbs, we are just going to focus on the niyamas. I just said that they presented the 8 in order that we could see where niyamas comes from. It's the second one. In Patanjali's system, there are just 5 of them, 5 yamas and 5 niyamas, and over time these developed into 10 in the later Yoga Upanishads, and Gurudeva chose the 10 system rather than the 5 system. So, the verse that gives the 5, purity, contentment, austerity, self-study, and devotion to God, Ishvara, are the niyamas, religious observances. And this is an important point. The modern popular concept of yoga is that it is simply a non-religious physical endeavor. Therefore, it may come as a surprise to some that Ishvara, or God as a person, plays a key role in Patanjali's classical yoga. So this isn't widely taught today. 3 of the niyamas are given extra importance by Patanjali. They are austerity, self-study, devotion to Ishvara. They are the 3 components of Kriya Yoga. In modern yoga teachings, the most common use of the term Kriya Yoga is to refer to a breathing technique, a pranayama. So self-realization fellowship and its offshoots use that, Kriya Yoga. Here, however, the term Kriya Yoga simply means the yoga of action. So Kriya just means action. Kriya Yoga has the purpose of bringing about samadhi and attenuating the kleshas. So that's the important thing. How do we lessen these tendencies to be drawn into worldly activities? By practicing Kriya Yoga. And what does Kriya Yoga consist of? We just looked at that. Though the grammar of this verse gives the initial impression that the 2 goals of bringing about samadhi, the deepest form of meditation, and weakening the kleshas are separate from one another, on further reflection, it can be seen that to achieve samadhi, it is necessary to first attenuate the influence of the kleshas. In other words, we have to do our devotional practices the deepest experiences in yoga, samadhi, are not available unless we have really mastered the devotional practices of the niyamas. As mentioned, the practices of Kriya Yoga are austerity, self-study, and devotion to Ishvara. Looking more closely at each of these, the idea of austerity may bring to mind images of yogis in the Himalayas living in a cave or bathing in the winter in the freezing waters of the Ganges, which are really freezing, I understand. Though tapas does include these intense practices, it also includes easier ones that can be done by all. So we're not encouraging everyone to do this type of tapas on a regular basis. Simple form of tapas is sacrifice. Sacrifice is the act of giving up to a greater power a cherished possession, be it money, time, intelligence, or a physical object to manifest a greater good. Sacrifice is similar to charity, but has the aspect of doing without, some form of self-denial. An example: fasting for a day and giving the money saved to a Hindu institution. Second example is, instead of going on a fairly expensive vacation, going instead on a budget vacation, making a donation of the difference to a Hindu institution. And if you have children, you can explain what you're doing as a family. We're skipping some of the activities on our vacation and giving the money we would have spent to our favorite Hindu temple, training them in sacrifice. So that's the difference between sacrifice and just charity. Charity, you're not skipping a meal. You're eating the meal and giving money. Sacrifice, you're skipping the meal and then giving the money that you saved. So there's a self-denial in sacrifice that's not present in charity. The commentators describe self-study, swadhyaya, as recitation, japa, of the sacred syllable Om and other similar mantras, and as the study of the sacred lore on liberation, moksha shastra. So it has japa in it, though you wouldn't know that from the name. Verse: through self-study, a connection is established with one's chosen deity. Ishta Devata is the Sanskrit he uses. Commentary: in other words, you will develop greater closeness to a deity by repeating that deity's mantra. That's the idea there. The third practice of Kriya Yoga is Ishvara Pranidhana, which means devotion to Ishvara. In later yoga literature, an alternative term for Ishvara Pranidhana is used, which is Ishvara Pujana, which is our term, which refers to devotional worship as a way of cultivating intense devotion for Ishvara. And we focus in expressing that through learning to do an Atmarta Puja in your home shrine. It's a very important practice within the niyamas. Thus, another way of stating the purpose of Kriya Yoga is that it is the yoga of purification through religious observances. So that's our presentation there. And the comment: presentation is trying to share A.D. Stern's wonderful descriptions of the five kleshas, remind us of the overview of the 8 progressive steps, Ashtanga Yoga in Patanjali's classical yoga, and the importance of the niyamas, the devotional practices. We can't make significant progress in deeper meditation without attenuating the kleshas, and the only way we can do that is through devotional practices. Basically, we start getting attracted to the inside of us instead of what's outside. And we're moving on to our second topic. We're in the character building workbook again. And our character quality is appreciation. This is our four-step approach to understanding a character quality. We define it, understand it, cognize its expressions, realize its benefits, and practice its expressions. So, understanding the character quality. Appreciation. You can define it in your own words. Give you a second to do that. Character Workbook says, appreciation is the state of respect, even awe, inspired by beauty, excellence, or skill perceived in one's surroundings. I cultivate appreciation by admiring and valuing all that I encounter. The opposite is unawareness. Gurudeva explained, appreciation is a beautiful, soulful quality available to everyone in every circumstance. Being thankful for life's little treasures, grateful for the opportunity to begin the day where you are, appreciating the perfect place your karma and God's grace have brought you to. Appreciation is life-giving. Loving appreciation is a life-changing force just waiting to be used. Express appreciation to community leaders, business associates, spiritual mentors, family members, and friends as often as you can. Loving appreciation is a magic formula that works both ways. When we commend another, we are automatically uplifted. Nice words of wisdom. Then we have our three examples. While driving through a park filled with exotic plants, you, appreciation, immediately take notice and are struck by their wondrousness. Unawareness, take no interest and see nothing out of the ordinary. Second example, walking outside on a night with a clear, star-filled sky, you, appreciation, appreciate the constellations and reflect on the vastness of the universe. Unawareness, focus on texting your friend, oblivious to the stellar display above you. So we're getting into the time of year here on Kauai where we're getting more stars in the sky in the morning. It requires weather coming from the north. Weather can come from any direction to Kauai. There's different qualities. Weather coming from the north in the early morning creates a sky without clouds. So when you get up before the sun is even showing and it's totally black in the sky, it's just filled with stars this time of year. We had a resident guest, young man from Malaysia once, who couldn't believe it. He'd never seen the stars. He lived in Klang Valley, not particularly clear sky. He'd never seen stars like he saw here in the winter. So he appreciated it. Third example, when reading an 18th century masterpiece for a book report, you, appreciation, revel in the author's brilliant portrayal of the era's people and events. Unawareness, show by your body language that you would rather be somewhere else. So appreciation is challenged by social media, particularly among those under a certain age that just growing up so much of the time looking at their cell phone, they're not appreciating the environment or the people around them at all. And that, of course, is not good, because appreciation is what gives us happiness and joy. We see beauty in things. Second step, cognize its expressions. List 2 or more thoughts, words, attitudes, and behaviors that are representative of people who possess the positive quality. Then make a parallel list for the opposite trait, unawareness. Let's you do that. Realize its benefits. List 2 or more of the benefits of having the quality. This can include insights into the problems caused when its opposite is followed. So Gurudeva gives some of the wonderful benefits here. Gurudeva developed 2 sadhanas in this area, one for gratitude and one for appreciation. He advised fulfilling the sadhana of gratitude first, then the sadhana of appreciation. So gratitude is also a character quality, which we'll come to when we get up to the letter G. And they're tied together. The sadhana of gratitude is to take out paper and pen and list all the good that has come into your life during the past 5 years. As memory is stimulated, the list will grow. Gurudeva suggests that if you find yourself not able to even recall one good thing, write several times, "I am a spiritual being of light, maturing in the ocean of experience." This will stimulate a positive memory, which will soon be followed by more. Feelings of loving appreciation will begin to flow toward those who helped you in the good times. Feelings of acceptance and forgiveness will also well up for the bad times. This sadhana echoes the wisdom found in the Untitled Chapter on gratitude. It is improper to ever forget a kindness, but good to forget at once an injury received. Focusing on the good things in our life leads naturally to the sadhana of appreciation. This sadhana is to approach those to whom you are grateful and tell them, while looking deep into their eyes, how much you esteem and value them. Be specific. That is the key. Don't just say something general like "you are wonderful." Rather point out specific qualities so that the person knows you really deeply feel what you are saying, that it is not just a surface compliment. Convince him or her that you are sincere by your kind words, smiling face, and even a small gift. To prepare yourself for the appreciation sadhana, you can practice by standing before a mirror, looking into your eyes and say aloud, "I am grateful to you and appreciate your being in my life." You can then describe some of the many good actions you have done during the past 5 years. Once you feel comfortable appreciating yourself, you are ready to begin appreciating others. This exercise helps overcome any shyness you may feel. Then we have some of my comments. Special events are great times to express appreciation. Birthdays are perfect opportunities, as are Mother's Day, Father's Day, and Grandparents' Day. In many nations, there is even a Boss's Day. So before you do the exercise and practicing its expressions, let's read the assignment, which may be helpful in seeing what to practice. Assignment. When outside the home in the 2 weeks ahead, be observant of the details of your surroundings. When you encounter something exceptional, focus on it and appreciate its uniqueness. So that is a key part of it, is being observant of the details of your surroundings. So then practicing it, if you feel like upgrading your character quality of appreciation, you can practice it. And the guideline for practice, of course, is be careful not to set the goal too high, lest you fall short. And that's our last slide there.